What's going on, world? This is your girl, Marky Lemons-Ryhal, and today I am here with Collin Mitchell. And one thing stood out to me was he has a podcast and it's about cold calling. And because the real estate market is starting its sway, because I'm not pivoting anymore, I'm talking about we have sways in the real estate market. I said, look, we got to talk about this cold calling thing because a lot of people want to go back and start cold calling. I have never been a cold caller, right? Never. It's never been my jam. So I know that we are going to be in for a treat today as we're going to have some discussion around cold calling, personalities, and social selling. What's going on, Collin? How you doing today?
Thanks for having me. All topics that I love talking about. I personally have made over 500,000 cold calls in my career. So I think I can add a little value on this topic here for your community.
You just gave me the shakes. Let me write this number down. 500,000 cold calls. And you know what? This conversation today is going to be excellent for my son. He's a second generation realtor. He's 26 years old. So 500,000 cold calls. How did that work? What did you learn after 500,000 of them calls? The things that I avoid like the plague. Tell me.
Yeah. So I would say here, a couple of big ones, right? Is everybody wants to talk, mindset is huge with cold calling. If you have an attitude of cold calling sucks, I'm not good at cold calling, then guess what? You're not going to be good at cold calling and cold calling is going to suck. But if you can shift that and go into it more of a positive mindset and actually have some fun with it, you can actually get some results. And there's a lot of different ways you can generate pipeline. Cold calling is just one. Social selling is another. Emailing, marketing, like you name it. There's a lot of different ways to drive revenue. The one reason I really love cold calling the most is because you get real time feedback, right? If you run a marketing campaign and you spin up some ads, you got to wait like 30, 45 days to get some data back and optimize that. And you don't know if your messaging or your targeting is on point. So same with any sort of outbound motion or social selling. When you are getting people on the phone, they're either hanging up on you or they're leaning into conversations. And if they're leaning into having conversations with you, then your targeting and your messaging might be onto something. And most people go into, cold calling with the wrong expectation. They go into it of, I got to build pipeline, I got to book meetings, I got to do all these things. Those are a result or a byproduct if you do it correctly. But the real goal of cold calling is to have high quality business conversations with people. And so when you just that slight little, two little shifts there in the mindset can make a huge difference in how you approach cold calling as a channel to generate business. And the other thing is, people are always looking for that silver bullet. Just give me the script, give me the great leads, give me the script, and unfortunately it doesn't exist, right? Because the way that I approach cold calling and let's pretend for a second that you were a cold caller, Marky, let's pretend, right? How I approach it and how you approach it and what determines whether it's successful might be very different. And an example of that is just, let's talk at the beginning of a cold call. We call that your opener, right? Your opening statement. Most people get this wrong because they go right into pitching. They go right into pitching right away and they get hung up on a lot, right? Well, I personally like to use a permission-based opener. And that might look something like, hey, Marky, I know I probably caught you out of the blue here. And to be honest, this is a cold call, but do you have like a half a minute so I can tell you exactly why I'm reaching out to you today? And so you're getting permission to get into the conversation. And then from there, you're really just trying to get them to lean into having a conversation. Because when you cold call somebody, and not everybody likes permission-based openers. Some people like an approach where they say, hey, Marky, how you doing? How you been? Right. And try to get you, they try to get you into feeling like there's some familiarity and leaning into a conversation. But you kind of have to pattern interrupt. You got to say something a little bit bold that catches them to get into a conversation. And something that I like to do, because most of my experience is in B2B, in B2B, selling to B2B, in SaaS and tech, right? So the way I like to have a pattern interrupt, and I know your community is mostly real estate professionals, so this might be a little bit different. You have to have a different context, but the idea, the concept, the framework works regardless of what you do. So I might go right away once you say, yeah, sure, I got a half a minute. Go ahead. I might say something like, hey, I'm really just trying to call here to introduce my company when I'm not calling you out of the blue like I am today. Are you available Wednesday or Thursday next week at 9 a.m.? And most people are like, what? Why would you ask for a meeting like that? They don't know who you are. They don't know what you do. You haven't asked them any questions. And it's intentional. I'm not really trying to get a meeting. I'm just trying to get their attention. So they'll be like, because the way that they react once you have their attention is, well, wait, hold on. What is this about? Oh, yeah, I definitely want to make sure that this is relevant to you. And then I'm going to go into asking some questions where it's like kind of qualifying them and piquing their interest and getting them to lean into a conversation. So asking for that meeting is by design to make sure that we're having a conversation, because a lot of times when you cold call people, you're not having a conversation. You're talking at them and they're just saying, nope, not interested. Nope, not interested. No, thank you. They don't even know what you do. They haven't heard you out. Those, I wouldn't even qualify those as people that are genuinely not interested, because they haven't given you a good enough reason. You haven't had a conversation with them yet to identify whether they're actually interested or not. So those are not interested without a good reason. What they're not interested in is they're just not interested in getting a cold call right now. And so those are some simple ways to kind of change the mindset and to get yourself into more business conversations.
Well, here's everything you just said was true. Let me tell you what I know is true. Not interested in having a conversation at that time, right? I know that to be a fact. But what I'm doing is taking a lot of notes, because I'm thinking about when have people been successful in cold calling me. So the whole set the wrong expectations, the fact that we're looking to have high quality business conversations, we get real time feedback. All of like that's true, right? But recently, my doctor's office gave me a call. And me and the gentleman who called me, we're on the phone, we're laughing. Now his job is to simply get me into the doctor's office, right? And instantly my son was listening to the conversation, and he says he would do phenomenal in cold calling in the world of real estate because he had you engaged on the phone. This man, though, called me back 4 additional times just to get my appointment straight, right? I will tell you, I answered because I knew it was him. And I knew that we were going to have a pleasant conversation, right? Now, initially, he interrupted my day. But he said, I said, well, look me up on Instagram. He says, I've never had the desire to look up anybody on Instagram because I was calling them to schedule their appointment. But you, Miss Markey, I'm going to look you up. And he did look me up, right? Because I gave him permission to look me up. But it was the most pleasant conversation because of the rapport that he built. And it wasn't like that same dry person who's always calling me. He actually had a little pep and personality in his tone. And what I gathered from all of our conversations was he liked his job. But what I learned was that he came from AT&T. So this wasn't just a job. This is his career, right? And he took his career serious. So when I go back and think about it, I need to change my mindset. And I'm the person who watches the movie The Secret. I'm currently reading the book, The Magic. I just finished the book, U Squared. So I should have known it started with mindset. You got to get your mind right, right? Okay.
Yeah.
500,000.
And so the thing that I love about that story is you could tell he enjoyed his job, right?
Yes.
So you got to find a way to enjoy cold calling. Most people have a hard time with that. And that's why they can never have success with cold calling. I mean, the worst that could happen is somebody's going to hang up on you, right? Like that's the worst that could happen. Maybe they call you a bad name. Maybe that happens. But the key is you got to detach from that. Like the results You can put in the work and the effort and you can do everything right, and you still might not have success all of the time. But if you're doing it right and you have the right attitude, the right mindset, you will have success in cold calling to generate pipeline, to generate business for yourself. If you're consistent with it, a lot of people give up. A lot of people give up before they start to see results. You're not going to be great at cold calling on day one. It's going to take some fine tuning and refining. And I'm a big fan of using a script, but a script is just it's just the guardrails. It's just something to help you get started. You got to start to bring your own flavor, your own style, bring yourself into the conversation. How I use a permission-based opener may not be the way that, somebody else would. Everybody wants to say, what's the perfect script? Well, the perfect script is however you're going to feel most confident in delivering it, because what you say matters a bit, but how you say it matters far more than what you say.
So the second thing I heard was consistency. So having another conversation with this second generation realtor of mine, and he said, Mom, what I've come to realize is I have to be consistent with what I consider to be boring. And I said, well, yeah, I guess if that's how you look at it, but I don't think of social media as boring, even though there are people who look at it as being boring, right? I love social media and technology, which is one of the reasons I'm consistent in doing it. And when we start thinking about social selling and building pipelines, there's so many ways to do it. And oftentimes I'm going to look at who my target audience is first. And then I want to pick of all the things that they like to do, what's the one thing that I also like to do, which then means I'll be more consistent at doing it, right? So you have to, what some view as being boring, you have to have fun and do it regardless, to whether you feel like it, whether you're sick, whatever the case may be in the world, in order to build that pipeline. So when you think of cold calling after 500,000 calls, we also talked about social selling. What is social selling to you?
Yeah. I love that question, because there's so many people who do social selling wrong. And I'm going to go back. I'm a mindset guy. It's going to go back to mindset again, because that's where it starts, because the actions and the activities that you do are a result of your mindset and how you approach it. Right. And so most people go into social selling looking at it as, what can I get? What can I take from this social channel? Whether that's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, doing funny dances, whatever, right? Pick your channel. If you're going into it, what can I get? I'm here to harvest leads. You're not going to be successful in it. You might get a little bit of success here and there, but eventually you're going to burn your audience. It's just going to go bad. And so you got to shift to, what can I contribute, right? What can I give to the platform, to a community? What can I do and it's a long game. Again, most people will give up before they start to see results, because they're going to throw their hands up and they're going to say, Marky, this social selling thing don't work. And that's because they don't have the right mindset and they're not taking the right actions. So building on social media, I like to think of social media as more of an inbound channel, right? Not an outbound channel, right? A lot of people treating social like an outbound channel, which is connect with everybody, send some automated messages, do all that stuff. Okay. I'm not some big tech automation type person, but there's a right way to do it. And it's about building relationships on the channels. It's adding value to an audience and community that you build up, right? So yes, you need to be intentional and you need to create connections with the people that you would most likely love to do business with. Okay. But you don't want to reach into their DMs and just pitch slap them with what it is that you do, thinking that you're going to generate some business.
Let me stop laughing. It feel like, pitch slap them. I'm gonna let you keep going, because I have now that I have a name, I'm gonna give you credit for this, Collin. Pitch slap them. Okay, go on right there.
So,
woo!
Yeah. Again, mindset, consistency, showing up every day, right? And connecting with the people that you're most likely want to do business with, and adding some value. What does that mean? posting content that's going to be relevant, that's going to be educational for them, engaging with them, supporting the stuff that they put out. So best way to stay top of mind with a prospect or a buyer is to engage with them on social media, not in their DMs, but in their comments. Okay. Because if you're being consistent with your content, they're then connecting and following you, and you got your profile dialed in, social becomes an inbound channel for you. Okay. And those buyers are further down the process once they finally get on a call with you, or you have your first conversation, because there's some trust and rapport that's already been built up prior to ever having a conversation. So social can be very powerful if you do it right. And if you have a little bit of patience, because it does take some time.
It does. And that's probably one of the, I would say it's an issue with students who attend my class. Instantly, they want instant gratification. And I'm telling them, look, I started using social media back in 2006. And 2 years ago, we launched a new product with no ad spend. They spent $130,000 in essentially 9 days with me because of the relationships built on social media. I'm consistently telling people you have to come from contribution. Be willing to give it all away. And I think what's unique in the world of real estate is that we're in competition with each other, even if you're in the same company. But at the end of the day, you have to come back and you have to collaborate in order to get a deal done. A lot of people don't understand, which I was taught early in life, that competition is healthy for business. So I give my information away even to my competitors because I'm consistently tweaking to make myself better. And to be honest with you, the thought process is only a small percentage of people are going to take the information and implement it. Yeah. And then when did I fall asleep that I didn't keep up with the changes when I gave you the information after I should have been about 80% to perfection anyway, right? That's kind of my mentality. So it's always I'm giving something away. I just gave away a free webinar. They're going to come to tomorrow, right? It's free. And I am going to overwhelm them with information tomorrow because my whole goal is to exceed expectations. I don't ever want to be mediocre, just okay. I don't know about that. No, I want to overwhelm you. That's what I strive for. And so we do see people, it's always my girlfriends who show up when they break up with a boyfriend. And we instantly can tell by their post, they're looking to attract their next boyfriend, right? It's everybody knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you've been on lockdown for 3 years. Then all of a sudden you pop out, you got a shirt cut down to your belly button, right? With the sexiest bra in the world. And you talk about dining alone. That ain't a come get it call. I don't know what is, right? Yeah. That's a pitch. That's a pitch slap, right? Yeah.
Just a different kind of transaction.
Just a different. But people can see through that at this point.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not going to get you what you really want.
Yeah. And the thing is, I love that attitude that you have about just giving it all away for free. There's no secrets, right? I mean, the goal is to add an overwhelming amount of value. So you position yourself as an expert that's educating people that are your ideal customer profile. And if you do that consistently, then when you promote something, you can drive $130,000 in sales with zero ad spend because you create what's called super fans. Super fans want to support whatever it is that you do because you've added so much value to them over time that it really doesn't even matter what the offer is. They just want to support what you're doing. So that's one way to look at it. And the thing is also you got to have a balance, right? You can't over promote, right? Because if every single post you put out there is buy my stuff, then it's not going to work. You're going to burn your audience. So, I would say a healthy ratio is like 10%. You could push it to 20, but 20 is like really kind of almost crossing your toe across the line of how much is too much promotion, right? Sign up for my list, sign up for my offer, buy this thing, come here, whatever, paid webinar, paid community. Like, look, if you you have to monetize your audience, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that. And people are totally okay with it if you're providing a true value, but you got to know what's too much as well.
So you said something about personality insight. Tell me more.
Yeah. So, here's the thing that is going to drive huge results for people in 2023 is being more authentic with their approach. And a way that you can be more authentic is by understanding your buyers at a deep level. And what do I mean by that? Well, there's their personality types. Everybody is different. If you've ever had a buyer or a prospect that you just felt like, hey, we just meshed. I don't know what it is, but like we just clicked. Everything was easier than, some others. Okay. Well, that's because you're compatible. That's because you see eye to eye on things. That's because you have some similar values and you can just show up and be yourself and it's easy. Okay. It's like, if you're in a relationship, right? And you're like, man, this feels like work. Then sorry, you're not compatible. Right.
That part.
So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. But what if you could be compatible with every buyer that comes into your world? Well, you can by knowing their personality type. And so you can understand their profile, from social, from LinkedIn, Twitter, understand their personality insights. And so what does that mean? You know what type of person they are. Are they a high D dominant person? Are they an influencer or a steady person? Are they more calculative, slower paced person? Selling real estate is a highly emotional sale. I mean, it's the biggest purchase that most people will ever make in their life, right? So understanding what their values are, what matters to them, what doesn't matter to them is really important. Some people, it's relationships. They highly value the relationships over everything else. They make decisions based on that and that alone, along with some other things, but it's the most important thing to them. Other people, high D type people, relationships, not that they don't matter, but it's not the most important thing. They are not going to make a purchase just because they like you or they think you're nice or they enjoy hanging out with you. So knowing that stuff is important to know about your buyers, especially in one of the biggest purchases that they'll ever make in their life, in a highly emotional sale, which is typically a very long sales cycle, right? You might be from first conversation to actually making a deal happen, can take some time. So understanding their values, what to do, what not to do. So traps to avoid, hot buttons, things like that. How to craft your messaging where it's going to most resonate with them based on the way that they process information. That's all really important stuff that you can get from personality insights about your buyers.
Are we talking about DISC profiles or?
DISC, yeah. So at Humantic, which is where I work, we use two personality models, DISC and Ocean. So Ocean is also considered as the big five. So DISC selling is not some new concept, but being able to have this stuff available, these insights in 30 seconds or less based on their digital footprint, that is new. Okay. Because DISC selling in the past, to be an expert, you got to understand people and human behavior and psychology, and you got to be able to read them and their body language and their tone and all of these things to maybe possibly, hopefully understand who they might be. So now you don't have to do that, and you can adapt and you can customize how you present yourself, how you communicate with these people based on their personality type.
So I was affiliated with the franchise, Keller Williams. I was a partnership in a franchise, and we had to all go through DISC assessment. So I'm a high D, high I, which you probably had already figured that out because I kind of wear it on my sleeve, right? And so the fact that you could take someone's social profile, and you could essentially, right, and do the DISC assessment because it's compiling all the information. Now, is this AI that you're leveraging to do this? Because now I can really see all of the possibilities from not only clients, but who people are hiring, to your sphere of influence. And these are things that you're now going to get like a target audience to me is, she's female, she earns this amount of money, she has these degrees, right? But now we're talking about what drives their behavior. So
Yeah.
I am a high D and a high I, but when we even go deeper into my personality, um, I don't, I do not fare well at all with inconsiderate people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the one thing that will get you put on my out list, whatever that looks like, right? And there's only a handful of people on that list that I just don't do anything with because they're inconsiderate. And it's just so easy to get on that list. So even though I'm a high D and I make business decisions, I never want to make my decisions at the expense of others. I don't want to earn money off of your pain or taking advantage of you because I believe there's more
that's
money.
The I. That's
the I, right?
That's the I piece.
But the whole move slow, indecisive, I don't do that either. So the joke at my house is my husband is holding on for dear life because I just keep on my path and you can't stop me. You can't be a roadblock because then the D comes out and I just run you over because you slow making decisions, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking different. I'm gonna walk dead over you, but especially when you try to put up a roadblock, right? For me, I understand people putting roadblocks up for them, but move out the way. Don't fall out into the street, right? Sit on the sidewalk, lean in the other direction, but not in the street to become an obstacle to other people. Okay, I can see all this. Okay, so tell me a little bit more.
So you can take this information, if we kind of tie it back here, right? You take this information, whether it's into a cold call, social selling, whatever the case is, you take this knowledge and you use it to sell to your buyers the way that your buyers want to buy. Okay. And some of this stuff is simple stuff, as silly as it may sound. I'll give you an example that even myself, I think is ridiculous. And I think some people will get it because they could be on either side. Bullet points. You send somebody an email with bullet points. Some people love them. Some people hate them. Now, the interesting thing is you send it to the right person, they process information that way. And they're going to probably respond to you quicker than if you send it to somebody who they hate bullet points, drives them nuts. That email is going to sit in their inbox for a week, 2 weeks. They might get a message from somebody else, and it's enough to stall a deal. And it's even enough to kill a deal over a small detail, just like bullet points. And so, some of it is that, but it's also tone and greeting and salutation. And some people, and we talked about a D, well, rapport building and pleasantries don't matter that much to them. So if you start leaning into that, because everybody teaches, sales is about rapport building, and it's like, yes. And, but no, because it's not. Everybody, both, whether the people think relationships and rapport building is important, and then there's the camp of people that think that it's not, well, they're both wrong because it depends on who the other person is. And so if they're a high D person, no, skip that stuff, get right to business and get to it. How are you going to add value for me? Right? How are you different? And so, but now with an I person, relationships matter more. So, pleasantries and warming them up and some rapport is recommended. So, the problem with sellers or even in, real estate agents, which are also sellers, right, is you're showing up the way that you would want somebody to show up for you, right? If you were on the other side of the table, if you were the buyer, that's how you're showing up, how you would want somebody to sell to you. And the problem with that is that only works when you're dealing with somebody who's just like you. And that's not going to always be the case. So you can increase win rates, you can sell more deals, you can close more transactions, you can get into more transactions by having this information about your buyers.
I 100% agree. I did a 2-year stint in pharmaceutical sales at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. And in that job, we're taught, that we need to be like a chameleon. We have to mirror the person. So whether you're a high D or not, if I'm in a doctor's office and that's a S or a C, I need to work on myself. It's not, they don't have to work on themselves. I need to be the chameleon that mirrors them. And then, of course, we have all these intranet systems where we would come back and put down the little details about whoever we had to go sell to.
Yeah.
But to have that information, because it would actually make the sales process more pleasant, right?
Yeah.
And regardless to the personality type, everyone is still a decision maker in whatever their transaction is.
Right.
So Collin, how does one reach out to learn more about your products and your services and to be able to do business with you in order to have quicker wins, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, anybody can go to humantic.ai. They can download a free trial and you can run up to 50 profiles for free. I say a good place to start is to run your own profile, know yourself a little bit, all right, and then run some profiles on some colleagues, some transactions that you're in, whether you're prospecting or you're further along. Start to get some information about the people that you already know. So some of this stuff will start to make sense to you. And then the best place to start is really to focus on what things to avoid. Once you know what to avoid with certain types of people, those are the big ones. Then sort of customizing how you show up, how you communicate, that's kind of phase 2. But at least just starting with knowing yourself and then figuring out what things you need to avoid with each type of person, that's a really good place to start.
I love it. And you know what's on my to-do list? I have a new designation that I'm going to earn, which is the certified divorce specialist. I could see how this might play into that situation. But more importantly, I thought that the metaverse would go over my clientele's head. So recently, in the last 30 days, I made the decision that I would learn more about AI because I've had the opportunity to start to interact with different AI products, and I'm absolutely amazed at how they work. So the timing and the subject is absolutely perfect, Collin. I just want to thank you, everyone. You're going to go over to humantic.ai. You can run up to 50 profiles. Start with yourself. See what it tells you about you. It's kind of like, it's better than astrology. Like I'm a Leo, me figuring out what Leos do. This talks about my personality. So, Collin, we want to thank you today, and let's go on out here and do some social selling.